This is the brand new Trainer's Toolkit for the Pokemon trading card game, and is it worth your money? Well, short answer, yeah, honestly it probably is worth your money. Let's switch over to the card cam and show you guys everything inside. Real quick, because we are about to open up a Pokemon Prize Pack Series 5 booster box on the channel, and I have some extra packs, we're going to be giving this away to one lucky person who likes this video and comments down below what you think about the Trainer's Toolkit. Have you ever bought one before, or are you thinking about buying this one? Good luck in the giveaway, and we'll be announcing the winner for this in the Pokemon Prize Pack Series 5 booster box, which we're uploading next on the channel. Also, I am just getting over a cold, so if you can bear with my nasally voice, I'm gonna apologize right now. Everything you need to build a powerful deck. That's the claim of this box, and honestly, that is what this box delivers on. It says it's a level 3 play level 3 box. This means it's meant for more competitive players, not for the complete noobs out there. However, this box could turn you from a noob into a more of a competitive player. It also tells you right here everything that is included, but we're going to show you guys that in just a second. We'll flip it around, and then you get Toucan Sam right there.
Hi.
Actually get 2 copies of him. There's a special promo artwork right here of Squawkabilly EX that you get with this toolbox, which is very handy. One of the best things that this box has going for it is all these super playable cards that they include in these boxes are highly playable. So you're going to get your value, you're going to get your maximum usage out of all these pieces of cardboard, because they're going to fit into so many different decks over the next couple of years if you're going to continue to play the game. One nice thing too is that these boxes are usable for like storage, so we're just going to use the little Gengar pin here, slice the side, and we can take off the cover as well. Now, every single year Pokemon does a Trainer's Toolkit. I'll have a photo or video or thumbnail, whatever, of the most recent ones that they've done. And so this is like an annual update that they kind of do. It's really convenient for a lot of players out there, because sometimes finding particular single Pokemon cards is a really big pain in the butt. But having this like well packaged item like this is just very welcoming and inviting for new players to the game. And now that I've emptied the box, you can actually use the box for storing your cards. So you can like put your cards, like your decks, in here, like 1 or 2 decks. Then you could put all your playable stuff in here as well. It's a very useful box for storage. So one of those boxes that, you know, when there's a lot of Pokemon stuff out there, there's a lot of trash, this is something you can actually reuse again and again, which is really great. So they included a little booklet right here, the Trainer's Toolkit Deck Builder's Guide. So it is going to be pretty handy for a lot of the first-time deck builders out there who want to try and get creative, come up with their own 60 card list. It's going to give you a breakdown of a lot of different cards in here. So if you're not used to deck building, maybe this is something you might want to pick up to learn how to really have fun at building decks. Building decks is one of my favorite things to do in the Pokemon trading card game. Not every deck has to be the best deck in format, but it's still fun being able to make fun creative decks with unique cards and just come up with your own spice. Next up, we have a code card, which will give you all of the stuff in the online game, so one person can go ahead and redeem that. A set of 65 sleeves right here in this like turquoise color. It looks like they have that nice glossy finish as well, which is nice to see. Always a big fan of when Pokemon does that compared to the matte finish. It just kind of hurts the shine of the cards. Some dice, 6 damage counter dice and 1 regular kind of die. Poison and burn marker. 4 booster packs. We got Twilight Masquerade, Temporal Forces, Stellar Crown, and Stellar Crown. I'm surprised there's no Obsidian Flames in here, I'll be honest with you. And of course, the main reason to buy this, the package of cards that it comes with to build your competitive decks. So real quick, before we get into the this like pile of cards, let's open up these booster packs while I have you guys here. We'll start with the Temporal Forces first, and we'll save Twilight Masquerade for last. I really am happy that they did not include a bunch of like packs. These are all super recent packs that also have a lot of very competitive cards, so that's very happy. I'm very happy to see that Pokemon's decided to do that instead of like some bulk packs. And Miraidon, nice for those future box wannabe players. Stellar Crown up next as well. Stellar Crown introduced quite a few strong cards to the game, so glad they included 2 copies. We got Ponyta, Cubone, Lapras, Minxiao, Salazzle, Mindfu, Pansear, and a Hydrapple EX. 1 more Stellar Crown, and then on to the Twilight Masquerade pack. We got a Slowpoke, Froakie, Ladybug, Fan Rotom, a very good card. Take this out of your bulk if you do have it. It's really strong. We got Togedemaru, Marowak, another Fan Rotom, beautiful, a Alkaberry, and a Klinklang. Twilight Masquerade pack, and then on to all the cards that is included in the Trainer's Toolkit 4.0. Now this is a product I always look forward to Pokemon releasing every single year, because it really just helps a lot of people get into the game in places or in areas they normally wouldn't be able to. We got Luxray EX to wrap it up. I believe trainer toolkits might only be sold at local game shops, but I could be wrong. It could be a product that's also sold at like department stores like Walmart and Target. So by having those stores carry it, it's even more inviting for people to play the game and give it a shot rather than just purely collecting cards. And that's one of the things I really pride myself on in this channel. Is one of the goals is I want to turn as many collectors as possible into actual competitive Pokemon trainers, players out here getting more usage out of their Pokemon cards, making memories with their Pokemon cards. Pokemon is really just more fun that way, in my opinion at least. So the box label here says there's 50 plus cards. So there's a lot of cards to go into in this video, and we're going to actually take our time to talk about every single one of them so you can see if there's cards you might want to try and build with your own decks. And of course, you don't have to buy these trainer toolkits. They're just very, very handy to buy because it's a prepackaged item. But if there's, singles you see here that you want to buy, you can always shop at your local game shops. And I'll leave a couple linked down below if you guys want to shop with them and use my promo code. So you can actually, buy these trainers, upgrade your decks immensely, and you'll just basically be able to future-proof your deck library, because a lot of Pokemon cards, a lot of the decks at least, use a lot of the same cards, right? There's a lot of trainers that are used again and again, like Nest Ball and Ultra Ball, in like literally every single deck out there. And then there's some cards like this, which are going to be in like half of the decks or 1/3 of the decks. So it's just really handy to have these cards at arm's reach. And yeah, enough dilly-dallying, let's get into these cards. First up, we got 2 copies of Squawkabilly EX. This is a card that's been printed several times throughout the Pokemon trading card game. Squawkabilly is a very, very strong card, which allows your deck to be extra aggressive, especially on your first turn. So we'll just read it real quick. Squawkabilly EX, 160 HP, and has the ability Squawk and Seize. I typically call it Squawk and Squeeze. It says once during your first turn, you may discard your hand and then draw 6 cards. So very, very rough if you're going to have to discard good cards in your hand, but you're getting 6 new cards. So the idea is you play a couple cards, then you use your Squawk, and then you get to play the game even more. But the problem is here, to balance how good that is, they had to make this be the first turn only ability, and it has 160 HP, and it's an EX Pokemon, so it's a very easy Pokemon for your opponent to knock out and take 2 prize cards from. So if you can build your deck in ways to really get full value out of Squawkabilly, Squawkabilly is a lethal card. Some decks play 1, some decks play 2. Usually it has to be a turbo style deck, or a deck that doesn't really care about discarding a lot of cards in their deck. That way it doesn't punish them in the long run. It also has the attack Motivate here for 1 colorless energy. It does 20 damage, and you get to charge 2 of your Pokemon on your bench with basic energies from your discard pile, which you could have possibly gotten into the discard pile from the Squawkabilly EX ability. Now, what decks use Squawkabilly? Well, pretty much any turbo deck. We got Miraidon, we got Roaring Moon, we got Raging Bolt, Regidrago V-Star is a deck that also plays Squawk. There's a lot of decks that can play Squawk out there, so it's really up to your personal preference. Some people really have to have it in all their decks, and some players prefer not to use it. But it is a really strong card, and it has it's going to have a long lifespan as well. So it's a card that's not going to rotate anytime soon, that's for sure. Next up, we got the card Tatsugiri. This is a new dragon Pokemon from Twilight Masquerade. We got 2 copies of it. It is very useful, and if you pair this card with the Tool Rescue board, it is a lethal combo of being able to free retreat your Tatsugiri whenever you start it in the active, and if you have it as a pivot option, if you do get a Pokemon knocked out. Tatsugiri is a support style of Pokemon that you're never really going to attack with. You just play it for the ability. So it has the ability Attract Customers, aka Attract Supporters. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may look at the top 6 cards of your deck, reveal a supporter, and add it to your hand. So very good card for consistency, making sure you see and get to play a supporter on your turn. Tatsugiri can help get you there. There's also a beautiful art rare, which I pulled from the booster box that the Pokemon companies gifted me. And also, that goes for a lot of the cards here I'm going to show you guys today. These are all the min rarity, the base rarity for these very playable cards. All these cards, I believe, have more expensive versions that you can buy. You could either upgrade them to reverse holo, or you can even bling them out with like the full art, or a gold card, or a special illustration of some sort, depending on the card. But yeah, this is all the lowest value version of these cards. That's one of the best things about Pokemon. Pokemon is the cheapest card game to play. Like, it's been proven time time and time again that the best meta decks compared to the best meta decks in other card games, Pokemon is absolutely the cheapest, which is really exciting and inviting for new players. It's welcoming because it allows you to pick up decks and not have to spend so much financially to get invested into it. And then if you really do enjoy playing the game, building other decks is really cheap, so you can just have some fun building other rogue decks and see how that goes. Next up, we got 2 copies of Ditto. This is the only other Pokemon they included in this box. Ditto is a way to get consistent access to your turn 1 Pokemon that you want to see in the active position. However, the ability only works on the first turn, so it's another one of those, you know, very strong first turn abilities, but it's useless the rest of the game. So Ditto is basically going to let you transform, like Ditto would, into any Pokemon at all, any basic Pokemon at all. So most players don't actually use Ditto. It's not really a card that's seen a lot of use. And fun fact, this is actually, now that I think about it, the non-holo version. The only other way to get this Ditto card is by pulling it from Pokemon 151 as a holo rare. So new min rarity. There's a lot of players out there who like to bling out their decks and play max rarity. Well, there's actually a cult as well that like to play min rarity. So shout out to you guys. Next up, we got Buddy Buddy Poffin. This is a fantastic card. It's played in so many decks, and I am not surprised to see it at all. My only disappointment with this is that they only include 2 copies of all these cards. Again, all these cards in this pile, they're all 2-ofs. So, you know, a full playset, you need 4 cards. That's what a playset is. But they only give you half a playset, so hopefully you don't need 2 more. But again, these cards aren't so expensive as singles either, so if you need to buy them, it's not going to break the bank by any means. But anyways, we got Buddy Buddy Poffin. This card is so good because you can play it on any turn, and it says grab 2 basic Pokemon with 70 HP or less. So very, very useful, and hey, you could even use Ditto or grab Ditto with Buddy Buddy Poffin. So a lot of decks use this. You're going to use this many years. We got Nest Ball right here. 2 copies of Nest Ball lets you grab 1 Pokemon, but there's no restriction on the HP, so it can be any basic Pokemon, and it gets sent straight to your bench. Ultra Ball is also very strong. A lot of decks will play multiple copies of it. You discard 2 cards from your hand. They can be any cards at all, and then you get to grab any Pokemon in your deck and add it to your hand. So whether it be a very important card you maybe needed on turn 1, like a Squawkabilly or something like that, or maybe a main attacker that you're going to be using later in the game. It's just a very versatile card. It does have a cost though, 2 cards in your hand, but you can also build your deck to have strengths by having particular cards in the discard pile as well by playing around this kind of you know, ability or effect on the card. Next up, we got 2 Techno Radar. This is a card that is only going to be played in Future Box style of decks. It says discard 1 card from your hand, but grab 2 future Pokemon. So it is insanely broken when you compare it to Ultra Ball. However, it only has a very limited card pool of future Pokemon, so the Pokemon with this like future text right there on the card. So you're very limited in terms of what you can grab, but discard 1 and pick any 2 future is very strong. I love that. We got Bug Catching Set. This card is for grass decks only. Essentially, you look at the top 7 cards of your deck, and if there's a grass Pokemon or grass energy there, you can add it to your hand. So it's not guaranteed consistency like Nest Ball or Ultra Ball. However, because you do get to have a little gamble with the deck's luck, you get the chance at getting 2 cards, and they can be either grass Pokemon or grass energy. So for my gamblers out there that want to have some fun, Bug Catching Set is a fun way to do so. Next up, we got Earthern Vessel. Earthern Vessel is another amazing card. A lot of decks play it. I think at min rarity in Canada, it's like $4 or $5 by itself. So a lot of people are happy that this is out now in the Trainer's Toolkit. And this card is a discard card for discarding 1 card in your hand. You get 2 basic energies. So very strong to get that turn 1 attachment or just extra energies in your hand. And this card also works really well if you combo it with certain decks that want to have energies in the discard pile, like Dark for Dark Patch or for Water for Palkia V-Star's ability. Earthen Vessel is very strong, so a lot of decks do play it, even if they're not ancient type of decks. Next up, we got 2 copies of Switch. Very generic card, been in the card game forever. You switch your Pokemon into the active, and yeah, it's, you know, you need to do that sometimes. Next up, we got Enhanced Hammer. This card is great at hurting Lugia players, so if you hate Lugia players, put Enhanced Hammer in your deck. It has the effect discard a special energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon, and if you didn't know, Lugia V-Star only uses special energies, so you can knock off a very important special energy they have on board. 2 copies of Enhanced Hammer. There's also another card called Crushing Hammer that they didn't include in this box, but that card is a coin flip, and you get to discard an energy off your opponent's Pokemon if you flip heads. But it can be any type of energy on a coin flip. This is special energy specifically. Next up, we got Countercatcher. Countercatcher is another card that goes into a lot of decks. There's quite a few decks out there that don't mind playing from behind, and so by having more prize cards than your opponent that you still have to pick up, you get to use this really strong ability, which typically only is used as a supporter card in boss's orders. So to have a gusting option such as Countercatcher in your deck is very strong. A lot of decks do play one, and if your deck again likes to play from behind very often, you might have more copies of Countercatcher in your deck. Next up, we got 2 copies of Rare Candy. It's a really broken card that allows your basic Pokemon to jump right into stage 2 and unlock those really strong abilities, attacks. Do remember that your Pokemon, just like how it would evolve into a stage 1 of itself, the Pokemon has to be on the field for a full turn before you can use Rare Candy. However, there's some cool plays you can do with cards like Thornton, where you transform your Pokemon into something else, and therefore, because it was still on the field for over that turn, you could evolve it. So you go Thornton, Rare Candy, Charizard, for example, for a broken combo. 2 copies of Rare Candy. A lot of decks will run 3 or 4, so just having 2 is kind of Kind of wish I had 3 at least. 2 copies of Electric Generator. If you're playing electric decks, you're playing Miraidon most likely. Yeah, most likely need 4. So why would you include 2 Pokemon? Come on, include 2 more generators. You always have to play 4 generators. This card says look at the top 5 cards of your deck, and if any of them are lightning energies, attach them to your benched lightning Pokemon. So very strong card, but it is a lot of luck involved. So you want to thin out as many non-lightning energy cards from your deck that you can. That's where the saying thinning is winning, of course, comes from, because we want to hit those lightning energies when we play Electric Generator. Next up, we got Superior Energy Retrieval at 2 copies. It says you can only use this card if you discard 2 cards in your hand, so another strong ability like Ultra Ball, where you can get any Pokemon at the cost of 2 cards in your hand. However, Superior Energy Retrieval, instead of getting a Pokemon from your deck, you get to grab 4 basic energies from your discard pile. Not too many decks play this particular card because a lot of decks don't really need a lot of basic energies in their hand at once. However, a couple of decks that do play Superior Energy Retrieval include Shen Pao and Golden Go EX. Next up, we got 1 copy of Super Rod. I was also annoyed by that. I wish they included 2 copies of Super Rod. Why 1? But Super Rod is a very valuable card. A lot of decks play 1 copy of Super Rod no matter what. It says shuffle up to 3 in any combination, Pokemon and basic energies. So if you lost an important Pokemon, or you had to discard it earlier on to maybe use a strong item effect from earlier, or you need those energies back into your deck for something like a Mirage Gate or Infernal Rain, or just being able to have more energy access is useful, Super Rod helps get you there. So Super Rod, typically you'll have 1 in your deck. Next up, we got Reversal Energy. So they included some special energies for this product. We got 2 different types. So first up, Reversal Energy. Special energies are very powerful, however, they only are useful in very unique circumstances. So Reversal Energy here is a kind of card that only works if you are up on prizes compared to your opponent. So just like Countercatcher earlier, you need to have more prize cards left than your opponent. Reversal Energy is the same. It says as long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides 1 colorless energy. However, it has a special effect here that says if you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent and this card is attached to an evolution Pokemon that doesn't have a rule box like an EX or a V, this card provides every type of energy but provides 3 energies at the same time. That is absolutely busted, and there's quite a few Pokemon cards out there that are able to take advantage of Reversal Energy by having a harder attack or a harder attack requirement like 3 colorless. Well, just 1 reversal gets you there whenever you're down. I particularly use 4 Reversal Energies the most in my Wugtrio Mill deck. And if this video gets 1,000 likes, we'll do a updated Wugtrio Mill because that deck is just so much fun to play. Jet Energy. So just like we have the item card Switch, well, Jet Energy is a colorless energy card, and then when you attach it onto a Pokemon on your bench, it will switch into the active. So it's a very unique kind of card where you get an effect out of playing your energy instantly. Jet Energy is very strong in decks to counter Snorlax Stall, for example, if they mill your switching options. Jet Energy pairs very well with some decks like Electric Generator decks, you know, because you're attaching the energy from your E-Gens onto your Lightning Bench Pokemon. It can go well with Fire type decks because we have the Stadium Magma Basin, which puts a fire energy from your discard pile onto your benched fire Pokemon. So if you use that Stadium and then play Jet Energy, you have a 2 energy Pokemon able to swing in the active position, which is very strong. Really cool combo you can do with like Entei V, for example. 2 copies of Jet Energy. Not too many decks play it, but the decks that do really get a lot of use out of it, of course. Next up, we got the tools. Pokemon can only use 1 tool at a time. You just put it on your Pokemon sideways, and then it's there being used. So let's read these ones real quick. We got Ancient Booster Energy Capsule. This is for ancient Pokemon only, and when it's on an ancient Pokemon, you get plus 60 HP, and it can't be affected by special conditions. Some decks that really get advantage from this card include Raging Bolt, we got Roaring Moon, and we got Cloth, because you have to put it onto that little mushroom Pokemon that needs this tool to instantly poison your opponent's Pokemon. I think it's Brute Bonnet. Yeah, that's the one. Future decks, we got Future Booster Energy Capsule. It gives your future Pokemon, which typically have a pretty heavy retreat cost, it gives them free retreat, and they get to do 20 extra damage. So very useful for Iron Thorns and Iron Hands, of course. Those were the cards that get the most use out of this. Next up, we got one copy of Rescue Board. Well, Rescue Board is really strong as well. It's a basically switch card, but as a tool. So you can put it onto your Pokemon. It has one less retreat cost, and if it has 30 HP or less, the treat is just automatically free, which is very useful. So 2 copies of Rescue Board. Then we got 2 copies of Technical Machine Evolution. Very strong card. If you're a deck that can go second and use like Arvin, for example, you grab an Evo TM, attach it to your Pokemon, and set your board up and evolve. A lot of decks right now like to go first in this meta, so if you're able to have a deck that goes second, you're probably going to want to have a deck that can take advantage of TM Evolution being used. Next up, we got Arvin. Arvin is, well, we're getting into all the supporters right now as well, I should say. Arvin's the most popular supporter in the game, I believe, or at least one of them. You get to search for an item and a tool. So, very strong card. 1 item, 1 tool, and you can get to pop off. Very good card. Boss's Orders, another strong card. Pick your opponent's Pokemon and put it in the active. That's the new target you're going to be hitting. Sometimes you need to hit a very specific Pokemon, and Boss's Orders is the supporter card to help sponsor that attack. Next up, we got 2 copies of Professor's Research, another really popular card. This card is discard your hand and draw 7. So, very powerful if your hand is empty or near empty, or you don't even care if the cards you get discarded, because seeing 7 new cards is cracked out. It is so good. So 2 copies of Professor's Research. I love Professor Sada. I don't really care about Turo. And next we got Iono. Iono is another fantastic card that a lot of players are happy they included in the Trainer's Toolkit. This is a card that used to be like $5-6 upon release, just as a common trainer, or uncommon trainer, I should say. Prices have gone down. Iono has been printed many times now. Each player shuffles their hand and puts it on the bottom of their deck. If either player puts any cards on the bottom of their deck, then you draw the amount of cards for the amount of press cards you have remaining. Very strong card to disrupt your opponent. Disrupting their hand is usually really strong, and you get to see a bunch of cards as well. It's kind of like Turo, except you don't discard the cards, so you could see, 6 cards if you play this on your opening turn. Next up, we got Lana's Aid. Lana's Aid is a pretty strong card, but it just doesn't see much play because the decks that could take advantage of it aren't super meta. It says put up to 3 in any combination of Pokemon that don't have a rule blocks and basic energy cards from your discard pile into your hand. So it's almost like a Super Rod, but instead of it going into your deck, it goes into your hand, which is pretty strong as well. If you need to get certain big combo pieces off, this card gets you 3 cards, so that's really strong for recovery. But yeah, 2 copies of Lana's Aid. Next up, we got Explorer's Guidance, a card that doesn't see play at all unless you're playing Ancient Box decks or basically Ancient Box deck, or what's it called? Great Tusk Mill. I played against that today. It says look at the top 6 cards of your deck and put 2 of them into your hand. Discard the other cards, and that is hard to read. Look at 6 cards and you keep 2. You gotta pick your 2 favorite children out of 6 cards. Come on now, that's a tough decision to make. It's kind of like Colress, Colress you see 5 and then you keep 3 and then you send 2 into the Shadow Realm. You got Professor Sada's Vitality, amazing card for any deck that uses ancient Pokemon. You get to choose up to 2 of your ancient Pokemon, attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to each of them, and then draw 3. Very strong card. It's energy acceleration and draw in one beautiful package, might I say. Because it is specifically for ancient Pokemon, you of course can only use it in decks for ancient Pokemon, so stuff like Raging Bolt, Roaring Moon, Ancient Box, those would be the big 3. And yeah, it's kind of like Melanie. If you guys remember Melanie from the Sword and Shield era, it was attach 1 water energy to your benched water Pokemon and then draw 3. So talk about power creep, man. It went from 1... Actually, no, Melanie was also for your Pokemon V only. I think. I could be wrong. But yeah, this power creep, man. This is busted. This is busted. And then our last supporter is the Professor Turo scenario, the only future supporter they included. However, there is another card called Cypher Maniac's Codebreaking, which is quite strong, where you get to stack your deck with 2 cards on top of them. But yeah, Professor Turo scenario, back to this card. It says put one of your Pokemon in play into your hand. So very strong, and it actually is a card that's played in quite a few decks because it doesn't say it has to be on future Pokemon only. It can go on anything. So it could be on a big Stage 2 Pokemon that's taken quite a few hits. Professor Turtle scenario looks pretty badass. He kind of looks like a James Bond spy agent kind of thing. Yeah, I like him. Chill dude. His beard game is crazy, not gonna lie. I wish I had a beard like that.